We're here at the Japanese Embassy talking with Ambassador Morishima, who is hosting this exhibition of historic artifacts. Can you tell us about them, Ambassador?
Gladly, Miss O'Neill.
Question number 1. How did you get approached for the job, and were you aware of the comic book beforehand?
Well, I was approached by Stu Rosen. He was the original director on the pilot. I'd worked with him on a number of shows, My Pretty Pony, Moon Dreamers, Glowfriend, and he had called my agent and requested that I audition for the part of April. So everyone in town was auditioning as well, and I walked into the waiting room and there might have been 50 girls there waiting to audition. It was a little intimidating. But anyway, he called me shortly after the audition, told me I got the job, and then later he told me that he had presented everyone else's voice except mine because he thought that my voice might be a little too high for April. And the producers didn't like anyone they had heard, and he said, well, I have this one last voice, why don't I play it for you? And they said, that's April! So that's how I got the job. And I was not aware of the comic book series before I had auditioned. And whenever you mentioned Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, everyone else would look at you like you were crazy. What are you talking about? So it was fun until the pilot came out. No one knew what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Well, your voice certainly sounds different than it did back in, was it the early 90s? So has your voice matured since then?
Well, this is my regular speaking voice. When I was playing April, it was, I had changed it to do the role a little deeper. Mm-hmm. That's what we do as actors, voiceover actors. So if it sounds different, it's because I'm being Renae Jacobs and not being April O'Neil.
True, that's true. Okay, question number 2. Where did the cast record the show? Was it at Fred Wolf Films or a different studio? And when possible, were they always together?
We recorded this show at different studios throughout Los Angeles, usually in the Valley. Fred Wolf or Merricombe Wolf Productions didn't own their own studio, and so I think it had to do with wherever they could get the best deal on airtime. But we also changed around because as the show got more popular, we would be very concerned that fans would show up. And so when we were told where the recording was going to be, we were also told not to repeat that information to anyone because we had some situations where people had shown up, and it was a little disruptive. And, the other question. We were always together. It really built the camaraderie and made us a real family. The humor of the Turtles was developed by working together in recording the session. So I think it would have really been a different show had everything been recorded individually.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot of studios, they have their voice actors in separate booths now. So I was wondering, if maybe they all came together. If they still did that. I'm not too sure if it's just with the production company or the certain studio.
And we always recorded together. In fact, it was made very clear that we were not to miss a recording session, that they really were against us recording separately. And they also let us know that if we weren't there for whatever reason, if we were ill, if we had another gig, we would be replaced. So they made it clear that we were priority, and if we took another job, that other job came second, and we all recorded together.
Okay, third question. Did you come up with a few different voices before settling on the current one for April? And do you think the voice evolved over the years?
Well, Stu Rosen had directed me to pitch my voice much lower than my normal voice. And I'm not sure if my voice seemed to change over the seasons. I think the fans would probably know better than I. We tried to keep it at the same pitch, And it's pretty close to my normal voice, so I don't know if it changed over the time.
Was there any one member of the cast who was the practical joker of the group? And if so, any infamous stunts or jokes that kept the cast from doing their work because of lots of laughter?
Well, I can certainly tell you that Rob Paulson and Pat Fraley were the most comedic and broke us up constantly, but we all played our roles in making everyone laugh. It was very important during the rehearsal process that we get our giggles out, and a lot of the lines and things that were ad-libbed during rehearsal were put into the script. But once we started recording, it was down to business. So no one was looking to crack anyone up at that time. It was pretty serious work at that point.
Did it ever throw the vibe of the recording off when the alternate voice actors were brought in? Did the alternates become a much part of the family as the regulars did?
Well, the alternate voiceover actors, they really did their best to match the voices, but it was pretty difficult. Once the Turtles were set to bring in an alternative voice, really brought us down pretty much. We did our best to keep the script going and everything, but that original camaraderie, it would be like having Thanksgiving dinner without your family there. It's just not the same. So, and I think the success of the show was due to the original actors. So, let's see. The alternative voices, did they become part of the family? We did our best. Once, like Rob Paulson was replaced during the season, and once that happened, he wasn't coming back. We did try our best to incorporate the new voices into the cast and make them part of the family, and they did become part of the family.
Were there any episodes recorded that for some reason didn't make it to the air? There's supposedly a few registered scripts that fans have found, like one titled Shredder in Love, that we don't know how far production got.
Well, I really don't have any idea about episodes that may not have aired. I do remember recording Shredder in Love. It was a very clever script. But whether it made it to air or not, I'm not sure, as I didn't watch every single episode.
Now, which episodes did you prefer to work on? The darker, more serious episodes of the show's final years, or the more lighthearted ones?
I'd have to say that the earlier ones, they were lighter and funnier, and we really had a great time doing those shows. And people really loved the humor. Finally, when people started understanding what the Turtles were, and kids as well as adults were watching it, they loved the humor. A few years into the show, the network came down and told us it needed to be more serious and more dark. And it was difficult because we were used to clowning around and having fun and being silly, and they didn't want that anymore. So it certainly was a change. But I'd have to say that the lighter, funnier shows were much more fun to do.
I don't know if you remember this episode, but there was one show where the Turtles had to babysit a neutrino baby by the name of Tribble. And toward the end, Donatello said the line, "Right, no trouble at all." This is what Montgomery Scott should have said in the Trouble with Tribble episode of Star Trek, only he ad-libbed it with, "It was hardly any trouble at all." Was this line an ad-lib by Barry Gordon in tribute to that Trek episode?
You know, we did so many episodes. I do remember this one vaguely. You'd have to ask Barry about that line. We all knew that this was an episode that was a takeoff on Star Trek. I mean, we were all big fans of Star Trek. But whether Barry came up with that line or whether it was in the script originally, I couldn't tell you.
Did you ever get to hang around with the production staff much who worked on the show? And which was your favorite area to hang out in? If not, which area of production would you have liked to have seen take place?
Let's see if I understand this question. Did we hang out with production staff? We did not hang out with production staff at all. We had our director, who during the episodes was Sue Blue, the producer Fred Wolf, and some other line producers would be in the booth while we were recording, but none of the writers, none of the animators were involved with us at all. So I didn't have a chance to meet any of them. And my favorite area to hang out in, I don't quite understand that question.
I think it's Neil. Can you give us a little help here?
Yeah.
Are you still there? Oh.
If there was a full-fledged production or animation department in the area, like if they were doing storyboards or if the script writers were working in a different area, which area do you think you would most be interested in seeing while they were doing their work?
Oh, I understand. Well, certainly all of the areas of production would have been fun to observe, although we weren't in on it. We weren't part of the script writing that was done completely in a different part of the city. The animation, I think, was done in the Orient, so we didn't have a chance to see that as well. We basically were in a recording studio and did our voices. I would love to have seen each part of the production as it went on, but that just wasn't possible.
When the show ended, did you know it was the last episode? It tied up some loose ends pretty nicely, but I don't think Jeffrey Scott knew that was the last episode either.
Well, we had often told that this would be our last show, they thought. They always left it open-ended. Each season, we did 9 years. Each season was, well, we think this is the last episode. And then they would call us and say, oh, we got picked up for another season. So we pretty much knew after 9 years that this might be the very last episode. Although we were very much hoping there would be more. We were still on top. It was still very popular. And but we knew. We were all pretty sad, and lots of tears and hugs, and then we all went on our way to do other shows. So that was it. I'm not sure if Jeffrey Scott knew this was going to be the last episode, as we never had a chance to meet him, and so we all hoped. We talked about specials, animated movie. There were other things that were talked about, but unfortunately they never materialized.
So what have you been doing since, was it 1996 when the first cartoon ended?
That's a very good question.
96?
Well, on the day that I heard that Ninja Turtles went to series, I had given birth to my daughter, Ariel, who is now going to be 18 in April. And I also have a son, Spencer, who's 13, and a wonderful husband. And so I'm very involved with my family. I do quite a bit of voiceover work, but many of the animation projects ended up going up to Canada. So a lot of my work has to do with CD-ROM, medical and dental instructional CDs, different projects like that, learning projects through the computer, teaching children how to use the computer, and animated art projects through the computer. So a lot, like I said, a lot of the animation has really left Los Angeles, which is very sad. But I've also gotten very involved with my community, raising money for a major university for scholarships for students, and traveling all over the world, and just having a wonderful time, enjoying my life.
So when did you get in... sorry, I'm hearing feedback here. So when did you start your voice acting career? Or how did you get into it?
I started voice-over acting when I was about 9 years old. We lived in Michigan, and there was a television station out of Michigan State University and a program that there was a woman who starred in it, and she had many different puppets that she used throughout the show. One summer, she gave a class in puppetry and taught us how to make puppets and how to do voices, and then she chose a few of the students to come and work on her show, and so I was one of the few that were chosen. And that kind of kicked off my career. when we moved to California when I was in 6th grade, I got involved again in puppetry and working with Knott's Berry Farm and recording their puppet shows that used to take place in a place called the Gypsy Camp. And I just continued. Once you start working in voiceover, other people learn of you, and then it just rolls along. So I've been working in voiceover since I was about 9 years old.
It's quite a long time.
Yeah, thanks.